Oh, good morning, Inman family. How are you today? Yes? Oh, it feels so good to be here with each and every one of you. I love this community. I love this group of people. And honestly, it's just such a highlight of my career and of my life to be able to share what I've learned and what I've been working on for the last year with each of you guys today. So we're here to talk about why your pipeline might be inconsistent, and my hope is to give you some strategies for how you can fix it. Would you guys like that? To be able to share some strategies on this? Very good. So I have a question for you, and this requires honesty. Can we be honest with one another? Yes? How many of you, or have you, or anyone you know ever had an inconsistent month in real estate? Can I see some hands raised? That should be all of us. If you're in real estate, you know someone who has had an inconsistent month in real estate. Yes? And the problem with it is we've normalized it. We've made it feel normal to have an inconsistent month in our business. And that's actually really scary, because that means that we're going a month or 2 or 3 without a paycheck. We're going time without a pending transaction. We're going time without a new listing. And can we agree that that is not okay? In fact, I have a saying, because real estate has truly, and when I say truly, I mean genuinely, changed my life. And I feel this way so strongly that I wrote a book about it, because I believe that no agent should be left behind, and they won't be left behind if they have a consistent pipeline. So let's talk about why we have an inconsistent pipeline. We are living on this 30-day transaction treadmill. We are chasing the today business. We're looking for that lead that is ready to buy a house in the next 30 to 90 days, yes? And why is that? Because we need that paycheck. In fact, I'm convinced that we've come into this cycle because of where we came from. Many of us got into real estate, and prior to that, we were working for someone else, and we were living paycheck to paycheck. And it was someone else's responsibility to decide and to determine where that next paycheck 6 months from now was going to come from. It wasn't our responsibility, because we were just there to do our job. Many of us got into this business because we enjoy helping buyers and sellers sell houses, not because we want to be content creators, not because we want to be chasing people on social media. We got into it because we wanted to help people buy and sell. And so we find ourselves on this treadmill. And here's the thing. We've been taught tactics. Make a phone call, post on social media, send the email, write the letter. These are all tactics. And that's what most of us have been doing with our business. And then there's some of us, we've been given the plan. This is where we're told 30 dials a week or a day equals so many transactions per year. But what we were missing, what we haven't been given, is a strategy. We haven't been explained what the strategy is behind our business, so that when things break or when things go wrong, we're not chasing a new shiny object. We're not chasing a new tactic. We're thinking about, how can I tweak my strategy so that it works for today? This is why our business is stuck on this 30-day treadmill trap, is because we're focused on the wrong thing. We're focused on the next 30 to 90 days, and we're not focused on the pipeline. And I'm here to explain to you that the pipeline is the business. So because we're chasing today business, we're missing out on tomorrow business. We're chasing emergencies. We're chasing urgency. And what's happening is we're getting exhausted. We're burning out. We're getting frustrated. We're losing patience. And then when it happens more than once, when we're on that roller coaster ride of real estate, all we can think about is, when can I take a breath? When can I breathe in my real estate business again? And really, it just stops being fun. But when we think about our pipeline, when we start to focus on our pipeline, the business that's going to come 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, what do you feel? If you knew that you had business every month from now and for the next 12 months, how many of you would feel peace and joy and excitement about real estate again? Anybody? Can we get a clap for that? Because I think that's where we want, right? We want that peace. We want that breath, because you're not stressed about where your next paycheck is coming from. So that means having that consistent pipeline means we know where our next transaction is coming from and when. That means we have reservations to our restaurant. It also means that we understand the trajectory of our business. Most corporations, the reality is they live on a 3-year to 10-year horizon for their business. And you know what we do? We focus on the next 30 to 90 days. And then we wonder why so many of us fail out of the business, because we've normalized this. Again, and why do we normalize it? Because we don't want you to quit. We want you to keep pushing forward. It's okay. Next month you'll get a transaction. But I really do think we're focusing on the wrong thing, because we've allowed people to live in survival mode. So let me tell you a story. Many years ago, for those of you guys that don't know, I'm a Florida licensed attorney, and my husband had started a law firm back in 2005, right before they had changed the bankruptcy laws, and I joined him in 2007. And so I had already been practicing law. I used to do criminal defense and workers' comp insurance defense, and then I joined him doing bankruptcy. And what was interesting about this time was that this was right when we were going into our crash. Do you guys remember that? If you've been in real estate for any period of time, you remember what real estate life was like back then. And so we were busy with bankruptcy clients. And these were people coming to us looking for debt relief. They were trying to figure out what's their next step. They were in such a dire situation that they were saying, I need help. And what happened was the banks stopped foreclosing, or at least not as quickly. So all the debt relief that we were getting our clients, it was incomplete, because they were still holding on to houses that the bank had not taken back yet. So I remember trying to work with real estate professionals at that time to refer them my business, or this business, and most agents kept dropping the ball. They didn't quite know what to do with it. And so at some point, I ended up getting my own real estate license. It took me about 2 years to figure it out that I wanted to actually do it, and I didn't actually get into it to do this. But what happened, I found, was that this was a great lead source of listings. These were people whose lives were in motion, where transactions were happening for them and they needed help. So once I got my real estate license, even though this was not my intended practice area, I ended up within 2 weeks, 3 listing appointments, took 2 listings. The 3rd listing I got a couple of months later, a few months later, because they weren't ready yet. And within 60 days of that, I had my first closing. And then once that first closing happened, I had business after business after business after business. I had that consistent pipeline. And I learned something here. People's lives change. They experience events in their world, and then the transaction follows. People aren't buying and selling real estate because of your marketing campaigns. Sorry, ladies. But they are buying because something happened in their lives. Something is causing them to need to make a move. So in my situation there with bankruptcy clients and people in transition, what happened was they had a problem, and then real estate became the solution. So this is important because I need you to understand that transactions follow transitions. People don't wake up one day and say, I want to buy and sell real estate. We all know that's not actually what happens in their minds or in reality. But an even bigger truth, this is the aha I want you to have right now. Buyers and sellers don't self-identify as buyers and sellers. They don't walk around calling themselves buyers and sellers, not until they have walked down that decision pipeline and tree, until we've told them, you're a buyer and you're a seller now. So how do we fill our transactions? Right now, you guys are doing what I wish you wouldn't, which is you're waiting for people to raise their hand. That's currently why you're still on that. This is your proof that you are on that 30-day transaction treadmill. Is because you're waiting for your buyers and sellers to, one, self-identify as buyers and sellers, and two, to raise their hand and tell you about it. And what happens? As soon as they tell you about it, you move into what I refer to as red ocean territory. High competition, high rejection, and low conversion. Because now you're competing with everybody else for the same opportunity. And so by the time they raise their hand and say, I need an agent, guess what? You're not the only one that knows now. And now you're competing on all the things that you never wanted to compete on. You're competing on price, on value, personality. They're interviewing your competition. And now you're still on that 30-day transaction treadmill. And here's the thing about the treadmill. You're recording all this activity, but you're not going anywhere. As soon as you get off that treadmill, you're back where you started, starting at 0 every single month. Who's ready to get off that 30-day transaction treadmill? Anybody? Yes? Thank you. And here's why we do it, because the pipeline is the business. So something I discovered when I got into real estate is that when it comes to these life events that lead to transitions, we refer to them commonly as the data Ds. You've probably heard of the data Ds, and hopefully you're gonna think about them a little bit differently after today. But your data Ds are those life events that lead to, and typically lead to, real estate transactions. You've got death with inherited property, divorce, one household becoming two. You have debt and default, which is where I built my original business. Relocation, duty, PCS orders. These are reasons why people will eventually transact real estate. And guess what? They see these reasons long before, and they're living these life events long before they ever decide to be buyers and sellers. And here's what it is. I want you to change your thinking. These are not leads. These are people whose lives are in motion. And now it becomes your responsibility to connect with them. So these transitions become the lifeblood of your pipeline. Because the pipeline is the business. So let me give you another example. 18 months ago, my children were, well, my last one, my baby, was graduating from high school and going off to college. And my husband and I were looking at this big house, 4 cars in the driveway, just all this stuff. And we're like, is this what we want for the next 10 years? We started to think about how our life was changing and what we wanted this next phase of our life to look like. We were thinking, I want a different lifestyle. I want to get out of suburbia. I want to live near the beach. I want a smaller footprint. We were both thinking, too, we wanted to travel. In fact, my husband and I, we are planning a whole nomadic life come November, where we're going to be living in different countries for a month at a time, because that's the life we vision and want for ourselves. And so 18 months ago, we started thinking about the fact that we were ready to downsize. We were recognizing that we are coming upon our empty nester phase. Now, if you had asked me, did I see myself as a seller back then? Absolutely not. What happened was I was having a life transition. And I'm happy to tell you this morning that 18 months later, My house is pending under contract. Hallelujah. Hopefully it closes. We're still in the inspection period. Say a prayer, okay? But these were the things that we were thinking about 18 months ago. So imagine if you were a real estate professional that caught me 18 months ago, because let me tell you the truth. I was telling everybody about what I was thinking. Not that I wanted to sell my house, but that I wanted a different lifestyle. I was telling my neighbors, I was telling my friends. But you know what I never saw on social media? Relevant content that spoke to me as an empty nester. Your content saying, want to buy a house, want to sell a house? I was not listening. I was scrolling right on past that, because that's not where I was mentally and emotionally. And that's exactly what's happening to your posting and your marketing right now. When you market to everyone, you market to no one. We're in an age and era of so much noise. Do you know this? And this isn't on my slide, so I'm going to squirrel. I'm going to do a side quest right now really fast, because this is fact. Meta does not report a lot of numbers. Meta owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger. But you know, when they do report numbers, it's pretty phenomenal. They measured that we have 3.56 billion active users on their platform. And they share and reshare 140 billion reels. So your post about I want to buy or sell some real estate, that is just noise to most consumers. And it's noise to Meta, which is why organically you're struggling trying to find your business that way. Because you're speaking to everyone, and therefore you're speaking to no one. So the signals I want you to start listening to, they're actually really easy to miss. And why is that? Because no one's taught you to look for them. Everyone's been teaching you to wait until people raise their hand, to call them out, let them come to you. Call the expired, call the FSBO. Again, red ocean territory, high competition, high rejection, low conversion. Because you're missing the signals of the people whose lives are in motion, because you're not paying attention to them. And they're telling you, without telling you, that they are future buyers and sellers. They're telling you about how my uncle passed away, and he's got 3 properties in New York. We don't know what to do with it. They're telling you, oh, me and, Sally, we might be breaking up. They're telling you, oh my gosh, I got promoted, and they want me to move to Scottsdale, Arizona. They're already telling you, but what's happening is you're missing the signals. So let me tell you about signals and the fact that signals are being broadcasted every day and why you're missing them. Back in 2016, I had decided I wanted to buy a Tesla. And back then, this was 10 years ago, they weren't as popular as they are today. And so there was a new kind of vehicle, it was a new kind of driving experience, and I was a little nervous. And so I was doing a ton of research. And in fact, I'll never forget, my husband told me, he's like, don't you buy a $100,000 car. And I said, fine, I'll lease it. It's a true story. I bought the second one. At least the first one, I bought the second one. But what happened was as I was researching Teslas, what happened? I started to see Teslas everywhere. Everywhere I would go, I was like, oh, they have a Tesla, they have a Tesla. And it gave me confidence in my decision. But here's the truth. Teslas always existed. They were always there. What changed was my reticular radar. This is science, my friends. My brain now was tuned in to the fact that there was Teslas in front of me. So my goal here today is to help turn and activate your reticular radar regarding the transitions that are happening in the lives around you. Because someone in your database right now is living a data D. But you've been ignoring them. You've been ignoring the signs. You've been ignoring the signals. You've been ignoring the call out. because you weren't taught to pay attention to it. So right now, someone's retiring, someone's empty nesting, someone's getting married, someone's growing a family. And these are all transitions that are likely to live or move into a transaction. But here's what's not happening. They're not calling themselves buyers and sellers. They're not raising their hand and telling you they need a real estate professional because they're going to transact in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, or 16. That's for you to recognize. That is for you to tune into. That is you to pay attention to. Because their transaction may be months down the road. And that is part of your pipeline. And by the time you wait for your database to raise their hand and say they're a buyer or a seller, it might just be too late. Now you're dealing with more competition. Now you're dealing with their excuses about why they didn't call you sooner. And now you're dealing with the, oh my God, I forgot you were a real estate agent. Who wants to hear that? That's terrible. Until now. Now I've activated your reticular radar. Now you're going to have a little more context to recognize your opportunities. You're going to pay attention to the signals. You're going to reach out proactively. You're going to start to have human, relevant conversations. You're going to offer items of value and resources to help them, not with the transaction, but with the transition. When you focus on the transition, you can earn the transaction. Why? Because the pipeline is the business. Who has ever asked their client or friend or family member for a referral? You guys do not want to participate with me today, huh? I'm going to not give up. Who has asked for a referral? Do we believe in referrals? Yes, these are our favorite transactions, right? And why are they our favorite transactions? Because of the trust transfer. People like testimonials, reviews, and to get a personal recommendation for this is who you should work with. We love referrals. But I want to give you a quick win. Because this is probably what you're saying. Who do you know that needs to buy or sell some real estate? Yes? This is what we say, yes and yes? Well, if you want a quick win today, you're going to stop saying this. You are going to stop asking your buyers and sellers or your people, who do they know that needs to buy or sell some real estate? And before I tell you what you are going to say, I'm going to tell you why. Number one, this is too generic. This is too broad. They don't know what you're talking about. There's a singular truth about us. We think in pictures, not words. So I'm going to play a game with you. I want you to close your eyes right now, and I'll example for you. We're going to close our eyes, and we're going to picture a seller. What does that seller look like? All right, screenshot that, put it to the side. Now I want you to picture a buyer. What does a buyer look like? We're going to screenshot that and put that to the side. One of two things happened when you envisioned your buyers and your sellers. Either one, you envisioned, Kendall, what the heck does a buyer or a seller look like? There's no singular look. Or two, you pictured what I pictured, which is a yard sign in the yard, a locked box, and the house is being marketed. Or for a buyer, they're pre-approved, or they have a proof of funds, and they're out shopping for homes. That's too late. If you're asking your clients to find you buyers and sellers, that's too late. Or if they can't envision what that looked like, what is their answer going to be? Who do you know that needs to buy or sell real estate? Nobody. I can't picture it. This is why we prefer movies to books, or even when we read a book, because I'm a book reader. I'm envisioning what I'm reading. I'm watching it like a movie in my mind. You know this is happening. This is human. So you're asking them to do the impossible. which is why you're not getting the referral. And let me tell you the other reason why it doesn't work, or why this is important. They have a saying, I think. It's like 10% of your database is going to transact real estate in the next 12 months, something like that. Can we agree? You've heard something like this? Well, the truth is, or the logic follows, 10% of your database is going to transact real estate. Now, when you do the math, that's a lot of transactions, and you're not getting them. And you know why? Because you're asking them to do the impossible, to see something that they cannot see. So would you guys like to know what would be a better question that you could be asking to actually get that quick win of some referrals in your business? Thank you. All right, I got some participants. Lovely. I'm great. You guys ready? You're going to take your screenshots, get your phones out, because I'm going to give it to you. Here's your better referral request, and then I'm going to break it down though for you. Number one, if any of your neighbors, colleagues, friends, or family, just stop right there. That is your who. Now you've given them someone to envision. You've given them a real person who's in their life to think about. And then you're going to ask them the what. Are they being relocated for military? Are they being relocated for a job? Do you know anyone who's recently inherited some property or experienced the passing of a family member? Now you're giving them a what to look for, a vision. And then the last part is the why. I have some helpful resources to share. Think about what that does. Does that not lower their guard? They're no longer feeling your transaction breath, your commission breath, because all you've told them is, hey, I have some helpful resources to give them. That's a powerful or more powerful transition, and a lot easier for your people to think about, because now they get to say, you know what, oh, we were playing poker last weekend, and my neighbor Jimmy, he just told me about his uncle who passed away out of New York, and they have a couple of properties that they need to get rid of. I didn't even think of him as someone to refer to you. I'm glad you asked me that question. Or you have that person who says, oh my gosh, my little sister, her boyfriend's mother, she just got a new job and they're moving to Tampa in a few weeks. Again, these aren't people who they have identified as buyers and sellers, but now you've attached a who, a what, and a why. That is a more powerful question. That is going to activate their reticular radar. Now you've given them context to actually give you help so that you can build your pipeline. This is relevant, it's specific, and it actually will create better results for you. So here's a 5-part daily practice. I'd love for you to write down 25 people each week. Every Sunday, write down 25 people you're going to call, and call 5 people a day and have a more relevant conversation. Pay attention and listen for the signals, for the transitions happening in their lives or the people around them. Activate their reticular radar so that they can do a better job of helping you serve not only your database, but theirs. Why? Because the pipeline is the business. One transaction, it might save the month. It might solve the immediate emergency. But a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month pipeline, that will fix your business. And when you identify transitions early, you're out of the red ocean, you're in the blue ocean, my friends. Now you get to have low competition, low rejection, high conversion. Because you're giving yourself time to build the relationship. You're giving them time to appreciate your value. You're providing useful guidance. You're giving real value. And you're establishing trust. Remember what I said, when you market to everyone, you market to no one. So when you focus on the transition, you can earn that transaction. So I want to say thank you. My name is Kendall Bonner. I'm the author of the Motivated Mover Method, where I break down everything I just talked about. And I want you to remember these truths. Transactions follow transitions. Serve the transition and you will earn the transaction. There are people in your database and in your world right now whose lives are already in motion, and they've been broadcasting signals to you on social media, on the phone, in the chats, and you can no longer ignore them. Why? Because the pipeline is your business. Thank you.
You my little boo thing, so I don't give a hoot what you do, say girl.